The rope creaked under the weight of the woman hanging upside down from Elijah Kane's porch beam, her blonde hair spilling toward the ground in a tangled curtain, her wrists bound tight behind her back, her breathing shallow but steady. Kane's eyes narrowed as he stepped closer, rifle in one hand, knife in the other, scanning the tree line for any movement. Whoever did this had been close enough to his cabin to touch it, and that alone made his skin crawl. His gaze shifted to the words burned deep into the wood behind her head. "Apache Lover," the blackened letters still smelling faintly of smoke. It wasn't vandalism. It was a signature. Kane cut her down in a single swift motion, catching her before she could hit the ground, her body limp against his shoulder. She was lighter than he expected, all bones and tension, and when he carried her inside, the firelight painted the bruises along her jaw in sharp relief. He laid her on the old leather couch, poured a tin cup of water, and waited. It took 10 long minutes before her eyes fluttered open, blue and unfocused, until they locked on him. "They'll come back for me," she whispered, her voice hoarse, her breath smelling faintly of smoke and fear. Kane didn't ask who, not yet. He had learned a long time ago that answers came easier when the other person thought they were safe. Instead, he moved to the door, leaning his rifle against the frame as he looked out at the darkening forest. Whoever had left her here hadn't just wanted her gone, they wanted her found. And that meant they were watching. The woman's voice broke his thoughts. "My name's Claire. I was in Pine Ridge 2 nights ago. Reddock's men found me there. She stopped, pressing her lips together, as if speaking it aloud might bring them closer. Kane glanced over his shoulder. "Reddock," he repeated, the name carrying a weight he didn't like. He'd heard it before, in campfire whispers from drifters who spoke of a half-outlaw, half-preacher who preached vengeance under the guise of blood heritage. Reddock's gang claimed Apache blood and used it like a weapon, branding enemies with scorched warnings before finishing the job. Kane's gut told him that if Claire was telling the truth, she'd brought a storm right to his doorstep. The fire popped, a sharp report in the silence, and outside, the forest seemed to hold its breath. Kane poured himself a measure of whiskey, the burn steadying his thoughts, and turned back to Claire. "If they're coming," he said, "we'll be ready." But he knew the truth. He didn't even know how many they were. She looked at him with an expression caught between hope and dread, then said quietly, "You don't understand. They don't give warnings twice." A branch snapped outside, sharp and deliberate. Kane was at the door in an instant, rifle in hand, scanning the snow for shapes. Nothing moved, but his instincts screamed that something was out there. He closed the door slowly, set the latch, and fed more wood into the fire. "Get some rest," he told her, though he didn't expect either of them to sleep. Hours later, with the wind biting through the seams of the cabin, Kane stood on the porch again, the cold air clearing his thoughts. The night was quiet, too quiet. Then in the shadows of the pines, a faint flicker of movement, a darker patch of black against the dark. His finger tightened on the trigger. Behind him, Claire stepped outside and whispered, "It's them." Kane didn't look at her. "How many?" Her voice trembled. "Enough to bury you." Somewhere beyond the tree line, a laugh rolled low and cold, and Kane realized with a grim certainty that whatever life he'd been living here on the mountain, it was over. The laugh in the trees was followed by silence, so heavy it pressed against Kane's ears, his finger frozen on the trigger, eyes sweeping every inch of shadow. Claire stayed behind him, close enough that he could feel the heat of her breath in the freezing night air. The wind shifted, carrying with it the faint scent of smoke and something metallic, like blood, and Kane knew they were closer than he wanted to believe. "Inside," he said quietly, not taking his eyes off the pines. She hesitated. "They'll surround the cabin." He didn't answer, just moved back slowly, shutting the door with a muted thud, bolting it, then grabbing the shotgun from above the hearth. "How long before they make a move?" he asked. Claire's voice was a whisper. "They're not here to rush you. They want you scared. They'll wait until you can't think straight, then they'll take you apart. Kane loaded the shotgun with slow, deliberate movements. Then we don't wait, he said, pulling open a drawer and tossing her a revolver. Ever used one? She caught it clumsily, but held it steady enough. Once, she admitted. Make it count, he replied. The fire popped again, but Kane's ears picked up something else, a faint crunch in the snow, not from the front of the cabin, but from the side, near the barn. He moved to the window, the frost-streaked glass making the night a blur, but he could just make out a shape, moving low and fast. Barn, he muttered. He stepped outside, every muscle tight, the cold cutting into his lungs. The barn door was ajar, swaying slightly in the wind. He advanced, shotgun ready, his boots whispering over the snow. Inside, the dark smelled of hay and leather, but there was another scent now, gun oil, fresh. His instincts flared a split second before the attack came. A shadow detached itself from the rafters, a man dropping down with a knife in hand. Kane twisted, the blade grazing his coat, and slammed the shotgun stock into the attacker's jaw. The man went down but rolled quick, bringing up a revolver. Kane fired once, the roar deafening in the small space, and the figure crumpled. Claire's voice rang out from the porch. There's more. Kane stepped out into the open, heart pounding, and saw them, 3 figures in long coats, faces half hidden by scarves, rifles slung low. One raised a hand, a mocking wave, before melting back into the tree line. They weren't retreating. They were herding him, forcing him to play their game. Kane knew this dance. He'd done it before in another lifetime, and it never ended clean. Back inside, Claire stood by the fire, the revolver trembling slightly in her hands. You don't understand, Reddock, she said. He doesn't care about me anymore. Now you're the message. Kane took a long breath, feeling the weight of it settle in his chest. Then we make sure the message doesn't get delivered. Somewhere out there, in the black spine of the mountains, Reddock's men waited. The fight wasn't coming tomorrow. It was coming tonight. And the lonely mountain man wasn't planning to run.